Hi, everybody. This is Mrs. Moon. I'm here to work on the second page of the math packet with you. You can see I already have this one done. I had started this question earlier, and I was working on making a video, and then my kids came in and started talking over me and interrupting the video, so I stopped it, and I'm going to start again, and I'm going to go over what I did on this question with you. This question asks about Jasmine and the score that she got on her quiz. It says that she got 19 out of 25 questions correct. So when you see the words out of, you should be thinking about a fraction. And the way that you can represent 19 out of 25 is like this, 19 25ths. The question asks what percent that is. And so when you think about percents, you should be thinking that they're out of 100. So when I look at the 25, right away I recognize it's very easy to get 25 to become 100. You just multiply by 4. So 25 times 4 is 100. Do the same to the top of the fraction. 19 times 4, I figured it out over here. 19 times 4 is 76, so that's the numerator in the fraction. And when I see 76 hundredths, I know that that is 76%. So Jasmine got 76% of the answers correct on her quiz. For this second one, they're asking you to order the rational numbers from least to greatest, so smallest to biggest. And the trouble is when you look at the choices, some are represented as percents, some are represented as decimals, and some are fractions. So it doesn't matter which one you prefer to use. You can convert to anything you want, but they all have to be the same. So when I started looking at the numbers, I noticed percents are easy. They're always out of 100. And I noticed that this decimal is also represented out of 100. So I'm going to make them all decimals, and I'm going to try to get them to the hundredths place. So right away, 25% I know is 25 hundredths. And so as a decimal, it's written this way, 0.25. 22 hundredths is already written as a decimal to the hundredths. And then now I have to work on 1/5. So I want to get 1/5 to also be out of 100, or be to the hundredths place. So again, when I see 5s, 25s, think of money. 5 to me is a nickel, and there are 20 nickels in a dollar, which tells me that 5 times 20 is 100. Do the same to the top, multiply by 20. And so 1 times 20 is 20. So 1/5 is equivalent to 20 hundredths. And as a decimal, it's written like this, 20 hundredths. So now it's much easier to put these in order from least to greatest or smallest to biggest. The smallest number I see is 20 hundredths, so that would come first. The next smallest number is 22 hundredths, that would be second. And then the largest, the greatest number is 25 hundredths, and so that would be third. So look at your choices. We're looking for 20 hundredths first, which is the 1/5, then 22 hundredths, and then 25 hundredths, which was 25%. So the answer is G. For number 9, this model represents 66%. And remember, when you see percents, think out of 100. So this means 66 out of 100. And that's exactly what this model is showing you. There are 100 little squares, and 66 of them are shaded. So what decimal is equivalent to this percent? Well, again, think hundredths. So 66 hundredths as a decimal is written as 0.66. So it's answer choice B. For number 10, how is the decimal 55 hundredths written as a fraction in simplest form? So again, if you read these decimals correctly, if you read it as 55 hundredths, you can hear the fraction 55 hundredths. So this one, there's a trick here. They're hoping that you're going to write that fraction and immediately pick the first choice, letter F. However, if you read closely, it does say simplest form. So when I look at these numbers, right away I see 5s and 0s in the ones place. So that tells me that these numbers are both divisible by 5. So I'm going to simplify by dividing by 5. 55 divided by 5 is 11. 100 divided by 5 is 20. We just did that over on this question. When I told you to think about nickels, think about money. There are 20 5s in 100. So 100 divided by 5 is 20. And now this is the simplified version of 55 100ths. So this answer choice would be G. For number 11, Caleb's receipt for lunch is shown below. If Caleb pays with a $10 bill, how much change will he receive? And so it's showing you he bought a chicken sandwich, he bought soup, he bought a drink, and then he paid tax. This question is really checking to see, first of all, can you follow a two-step direction? And also, can you work with decimals? So the first thing you have to do is find out what was the cost for his lunch. So we do that by adding. I'm going to just leave the numbers, they're nicely lined up. When you add decimals, the decimals all have to be lined up properly. I'm gonna leave them the way they are, and I'm just gonna add right here on his receipt. 9 plus 5 is 14. 14 plus 9 is 23. And 23 plus 9 is 32. 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 plus 2 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. And now bring that decimal into your answer. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 0 is 6. So altogether, Caleb's bill is $6.92. And again, see how that's an answer choice? They're hoping you're going to finish this step and just choose that first answer. However, now they want to see, can you follow the second step? So it says that Caleb pays with a $10 bill. How much change will he receive? So he starts with $10. He owes $6.92. And so when you owe money, it's a subtraction. And so by subtracting, we can find out his change. There's a lot of work to do here because we can't subtract any of those zeros. So borrow from the 1. This becomes a 10. Continue to borrow. That becomes a 9. This becomes a 10. Borrow one more time. That's a 9. And that's a 10. Now we're ready to subtract. 10 minus 2 is 8. 9 minus 9 is 0. Keep the decimal lined up. 9 minus 6 is 3. So Caleb's change would be $3.08, which is choice D. And on this last one, this is a difficult question. They're asking you to find a unit rate. It says Colleen rode her bike 9.5 miles in 8/10 of an hour. What was her average speed in miles per hour? So they're giving this to you as 8/10 of an hour, but they want to know per hour. So when you see per hour, it means per 1 hour. So we've learned to do this with a ratio table. So that's how I'm going to set it up, but it does involve a bit of work. It's not an easy one to figure out because of all the decimals. So let's start with miles and hours. So she rides 9.5 miles in 8/10 of an hour. So the question is, what was her speed per hour? Okay, so per 1 hour. So the question is, how far did she go in 1 hour? So we have to go somehow from 8/10 to 1. The way I'm going to suggest you, there are a number of ways you could do that. I'm going to suggest getting this to a 2/10 first, because I'm noticing some easy ways to do this. If I start with 8/10 and I divide by 4, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So this will be 2/10. And then once I get to 2/10, if I multiply by 5, that'll get me to a 1. So now I have to do the same at the top. I need to take the 9.5 and divide by 4, and then whatever answer I get there, I need to multiply by 5. So again, this is not easy. We've practiced this, finding equivalent fractions and then trying to get to either the numerator or the denominator that you need. but this is probably the easiest way that we've learned in class. So let's start with the 9.5 and divide by 4. When you divide decimals, you put you place the decimal right away, directly above where it is. And 9 divided by 4 is 2. Bring down the 5. 15 divided by 4 is 3. And that's 12. Now we have a remainder, so we're going to fill with a couple zeros and see if we can get this decimal to end or to terminate. So bring down the first 0. 30 divided by 4 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Bring down this next 0, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. 5 times 4 is 20, and when you subtract, you get a 0. So this decimal does end. 2.375. Okay, and so now the next step is to multiply by 5. So 2.375 times 5 . Okay, and for the decimal, you look at how many places from the right that you are in the factors. So 1, 2, 3 places from the right. So do the same in the answer. 1, 2, 3. So 11.875. So Colleen was riding 11.875 miles per hour. So now a quick way, and just another tip as to how you could do this. If you had set this up as a ratio or a rate, it would be 9.5 miles in 0.8 of an hour. So this is miles per hour. When you see a fraction, remember, fractions are just division problems, so you can get this same answer by just dividing. So you could have skipped this ratio table, which is the way we've learned to do it in class, but if you recognize that this is a fraction and fractions are division problems, you could take 9.5 and divide it by 0.8. And when you do that, you get this same answer, 11.875. So those are two different ways that you could solve that question. I hope this helps, and I will work on page 3, and I'll share that one with you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.